There we
Okay.
go.
Yeah,
We are
sounds good.
live. Just
Yes.
keep talking for a sec, and I will be able to check the audio here. And looks a
Okay.
little messy at the beginning. We can clean that up
Okay.
afterwards.
Sounds good. Yeah, I'm really excited to be here. Thank you, Paul, for having
Thank you.
me. It's awesome to bounce ideas like this off of each other.
Oh,
So
perfect. You're live. I'm just going to tag you as well. And if you want to publish it to your, I'm just going to tag you as well. Koroki, there we go. Okay, and then after we're done, I'll invite you to put all your links and stuff in the comments afterwards so people can find you, but you can
okay.
also discuss them as part of the live.
Sounds good.
Okay, sorry for all the prep or whatever, but I'd like to introduce you to the wonderful Christine Koroki. Did I pronounce that correct?
Yes, thank you. That was
Awesome.
perfect.
I met Christine in a conscious business accelerator group that I'm part of, and she inspired me. So I'd love to hear a little bit about her, uh, what she does around meditation, and what lights her up in her world. So go ahead, Christine.
Yeah. So I'm really here to be an advocate for those who want to incorporate silent meditation into their lives. In this interview, I really want to cover the different types of meditation, a lot of the misconceptions that are around meditation. The wellness industry has really boomed into this massive thing where it's actually quite hard to navigate. And there's just so many options, like everything else. There's just so many options. There's so many ways to do everything. But what I really love about silent meditation is that it just comes back to you. Meditation is a very personal experience. And it's one of those things that the more you do it, the more you also like develop your self-confidence, your sense of self, because you're taking time to just be with you. And I'm going to go through the different types of meditations and how they can be used and the benefits and the drawbacks of each. But this is really I really wanted to join the conversation on meditation now because it's after COVID, people are more aware of their wellness. There's a lot of guided meditations out there that are pulling you in different directions. And I just really think a silent meditation practice is really, really helpful, always, today, but always. And yeah, people really don't know how to get started. Everyone is kind of starting at home. And it's like anything really, like when you learn something, like if you were to learn yoga, you can learn it at home, but if you go to a yoga studio, you're going to learn it a lot better. Meditation is the same way. There is this sort of perception that you can get started at home, and you can, but if you can find like a group meditation studio near where you live, or I did grow up Buddhist. Doesn't necessarily have to be a Buddhist center, but sometimes Buddhist places are the only places where you can learn how to meditate in a group, but just get yourself started, and then after some time, you can kind of make it your own.
So I heard underneath that, would you call meditation, and especially silent meditation, is a gateway to self-awareness, understanding?
Totally. Yes. Yes.
And
It's
most of us are living outside of ourselves and we never go inward. So go ahead, keep going.
Yeah, so there's sort of I do want to maybe start with the misconceptions of meditation. There are many types of meditation, and many cultures have been doing meditation for hundreds and thousands of years. I personally like silent meditation, but there's movement meditation. Yoga is a good example of that. There's walking meditation. So the meditation is a state of being in presence, with the present moment and being present with yourself and your surroundings. So silent meditation is very inner, but it doesn't always have to be. Also, there's within the group of like within the world of silent meditation, there's like a bunch of different categories too. But if we just sort of generalize in the beginning, there's movement meditation, there's sound meditation, where you're listening to meditation, like singing bowls or gongs, things like that. And there's also where you're projecting sound, where you're channeling and you're also projecting sound in your singing. That's also a form of meditation. Um, Another form of meditation is chanting, right? You see that in a lot of religions where a lot of religions, a lot of cultures where it's chanting, where it's not repetitive, but it's like almost like scripture, or in Hawaii, it's oli, like you're chanting through words for a specific purpose or meaning. And the words is creating a certain type of environment, whether it's, to enter a place or to honor somebody or a deity of some sort. There's also affirmations where it's similar to chanting, but it's shorter and it's done in repetition, right? Transcendental meditation, things like that, where it can be said out loud, or it can, a lot of Buddhist practices, you're vocalizing your chants a lot of times, but then there are also ones where you like internalize your chants. So there's that. And then there's silent meditation too, right? And then within the world of silent meditation, there's like chakra meditations, there's, empowerment meditations, and there's eyes open, eyes closed, like what do you do with your hands? How do you sit? All that kind of stuff. So within the world of silent meditation, there's a lot of little nuances. And then there's guided meditations, which we're grateful to the wellness industry for that. There's, apps galore on guided meditations. And I'm not saying they're all bad. I definitely indulge in guided meditations. But what I want to sort of put out there is that a guided meditation practice is always much more impactful on top of a silent meditation practice of some sort. Because what a silent meditation practice does is it cultivates your connection to your inner energies and your inner self. And if you have that sort of stronghold already, if you do like an amazing, childhood trauma guided meditation, you're going to go way deeper and you're going to clear way more from that guided meditation if you already have like a really stable silent meditation practice in place, or any practice in place where you've cultivated that connection with yourself versus always looking for external guidance on like how to like navigate your, spiritual self.
So guided versus silent, let's maybe start with silent. What is going on inside of you, as an example?
So I grew up meditating since I was a kid. I was born in Hawaii, but my dad's job took our family to South Korea. My dad is local Japanese, third generation American, and my mom is from South Korea. Both Buddhist, but my mom was like, the one that called the shots on a lot of things. So she had us go to a Korean temple at first. English always stayed my primary language because I went to an American school in Korea. But she eventually found an international temple that was forming at that time. And now it's called the Lotus Lantern International Meditation Center. And, when I was going there, it was just being built. I meditated in like brand new buildings, and they had a small center in Insadong in Seoul, but then the big temple was in Gyeonggi-do Island. So there, it was a really well-rounded international group. Like my main sort of Buddhist school teacher was a white Canadian monk that was female, and then we had monks from Europe, monks from Southeast Asia, definitely South Korean monks that all spoke English. And even the handful of kids that went there, they were similar to me, where we were South Korean, but they had lived in India and they had lived in London. So we had this sort of, international kind of, family. And then we were in Korea learning Buddhism and meditation together. And in South Korea, it's called Sun meditation, which is a silent meditation for awareness to enlightenment. And I also trained in Vipassana meditation in Thailand. Okay. So when I was like the only kid when I was growing up in Seoul in the 80s and 90s meditating, because most of my friends are Christian, which I had no problem with. The monks had no problem with. They were like, yeah, whatever, just go explore your, And I would go to church just to hang out with my kids on Sunday. I mean, my friends on Sunday, because that's where they were. Or like, and Buddhists weren't really big on like holidays, right? We did Buddha's birthday, but like on Easter, and I wanted to like play all the games, I would go to church, like no problem. I even like went to retreats and I was in some church plays. Like it wasn't a big deal really to me. It was just like, okay, this is like information to like be a better person kind of thing. That's kind of how I took it. But I definitely credit my meditation practice to that, because the one thing that they really wanted to hone down was discernment. Like tap into yourself. The more you meditate, the more you know who you are, and then you can make better decisions for yourself. And the fact that, there was a lot of things going on, like culturally, it made me very flexible, and I could just sort of, make my way around and just do things that I thought were good for me kind of thing. And that kind of followed me in my career. and yeah, in my life. And I had a really fun 20s. I lived in a bunch of different countries, and when I turned 30, I decided to grow some roots. So I came back to Hawaii, and I've been here ever since. I'm 44 now. I turned 44 this year.
Beautiful. So what in your life created this pull to meditation for you? You learned it, but
Right.
you obviously want to tell people about it now. So
Yeah, so I sort of worked up the corporate ladder. I was a graphic design by training. I went to Pratt Institute in Brooklyn, New York, and got my degree in communications design there. And I worked in New York, I worked in California, I also worked in Japan and South Korea, and came back to Hawaii to, be a graphic designer here and sort of work my way up. I always kind of worked with, not always, but a lot of the clients that I had, or the jobs that I had, was working with developers. So in New York City, I worked for NYC 2012, which was trying to get the Olympic Games to come to New York City in 2012. So a lot of developers there. I worked with Architects Newspaper. I worked with architecture firms here. So I kind of became a strategist, which was because in communications design, when I went to college, I was an advertising art direction major because of the strategy part. Like all my professors were like, no, you're an advertising art direction person, just stay in this. And I didn't really understand what they meant at that time, but I am a strategist. I like to see the whole picture whenever anything gets designed. I'm like, who's it for? Where's it going? Like, what's the impact it's going to make? Da, 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 da. And I credit my meditation practice to that, because what meditation does teach you is how to observe. And so, and kind of growing up multicultural, I was constantly observing. And someplace like Hawaii, where there's like a lot of Hawaii pride, someplace like Korea, where there's like so much Korean pride, like you have to adapt, otherwise, otherwise you're not really going to be happy. So, so as I became a senior strategist at an architecture firm that was actually based out of San Francisco, but had like large, Hawaii clients. And I became a project manager. I was like client facing. And as I sort of working up the corporate ladder, and you get more responsibilities, you need leadership skills, you need to be client facing, you have to be public facing. I noticed that the people, like my peers, like my friends around me, were starting to kind of like choke a little bit, And personally for me, I just leaned on my meditation practice, to release stress from work, stay present. I was able to grow the Hawaii team for the architecture firm that I was working with. And then it came to a point where I was like, I wanted to do my own thing. I kind of did what I was supposed to do, get a job, become a senior, whatever, become a manager, whatever. And then when I got there, I was like, oh, I think I can help in a better way. That's a little bit more enjoyable than what I'm doing now. I'm a good designer. I'm a good strategist. I'm a decent public speaker and everything like that. So I was like, okay. And then the wellness industry had gotten so loud with so many different things. And I just really felt like my perspective wasn't there, which is an Asian American that learned meditation in Asia that lives in the West. And so that's kind of like, I'm here to sort of be that presence. So
okay.
that there is a presence.
So before we get into how you do that or whatever, what did presence give to you in the corporate environment for you?
So a lot of it was discernment. I think probably the greatest
explain discernment as well. You mentioned it before. What does discernment mean to you?
Discernment is being able to observe and to stay neutral. That's my sort of definition of discernment, is to see what's presented in front of you and like see what the goal
is. Choose the best option for all.
Yeah. The best option for all, or for the goal that's being set.
Agreed.
Right. Yeah. So it really helped me at work, where I didn't take things personally. Like I'm a senior female at the workplace. I didn't really take things too personally. And it, really helped me excel, and the confidence. I do want to talk about the negative effects of meditation, because they're definitely there. The thing about a meditation practice is you do have to give your meditation practice some direction, which is why a lot of times meditation is associated with religious institutions, because the religious institution is giving you sort of a faith or direction on how to, the chanting and all like the practices. It's giving you sort of like a way to use it. So as sort of religions are starting to sort of go away and it's all about, wellness or whatever, there does need to be some sort of direction. Otherwise, you will definitely get lost in your meditation practice because you're going so inward, you're becoming more sensitive, and you also get more connected to spirit. So staying grounded can definitely be a problem. So when it comes to using meditation and integrate it into your daily life, you do need to have some sort of structure in place in order for you to meditate healthy so that you're not being an escapist through meditation. I've definitely seen meditation be used as a drug for escapism. I've definitely, even like the shakes. Like I remember I was in Thailand, and there was this lady there who was meditating, and before she would get so anxious because she wanted that experience of what happens when she meditates. And I was just looking at her, I was like, I didn't know people could get high off of meditation, or like, use it as a drug, to the point where she almost didn't look like a drug addict, but she was like shaking and very anxious. And there's a sense of control that kind of comes up when you start to go deeper in your meditation practice, because you have so much control of yourself while you're meditating. Like if you get really good at it, and then you want to end up controlling your external environment, but that's not the point, stuff like that. So I think that's why I wanted to show up now. It's people like integrating a healthy meditation practice and actually using it for your life, because it's helped me so much. I've kind of become this natural go-to person, I guess, among my friends. It's like, oh, I wonder what Christine would say about this and stuff like that. And I do think it's because of this meditation practice that I've been able to cultivate since I was a child and integrate it into my life. And it's helped me so much. It's helped me in work, my romantic life. I love my boyfriend right now. We have a great time. And especially like I do dabble in astrology. I'm a pretty good astrologer, I would say. And when you turn 40, for a lot of people, that's what you call their Uranus opposition. And like Saturn return happens in your 30s and 60s. The Uranus opposition happens when you're 40, and I'm 44. I turned 44 this year. And the big question that the Uranus opposition brings is, whose life are you living? So when my 40s hit, it was like, boom, it's like, oh, I don't want to be here. Like, I want to do the thing I'm really good at. And a good way to sort of see what because a lot of people, when they get to sort of a point where they like don't know what to do with their life, because they're like, what would I do if I didn't do this job or whatever? A good question to ask is, well, what would you pay yourself for? And so I was like, well,
just to reframe, 40 was when you stepped out of corporate. Is that what you're talking? You referred to it, but we never discussed
in
it.
my 40s, yeah. Like okay. as I turned 40. I didn't realize it at the time. I was going in and out of studying my astrology, but then when I read about the Uranus opposition, I was like, oh, okay. And that's the other thing. When I know people who put a label on all like the spiritual stuff, like this is called this is called that. When you have an integrated meditation practice, you're calling your shots just because your intuition and your alignment with spirit is like so good that you're like, oh no, it's time for me to do this. And then, oh no, it's time for me to do that. And everything feels natural. And the more consistent you stay at it, your life like really flows. And, your life kind of turns into like a little dance that you're just, because you do have to stay flexible in life.
And essentially what you're saying is that's the inner awareness that allows it to flow, because if you don't have the inner awareness, you'll just have big pitfalls. Things will show up and it's like, oh, you get fired from your job because you're not listening to your inner guidance.
Yeah. I've never been fired from a job.
No.
So I don't know what that necessarily feels like, but
it's kind of that thing that slaps you down for a big change. It's like a big hurdle.
I guess so.
Yeah.
I personally haven't experienced that, only because in my 20s, like, so in my 40s, when I left my job, people were like, aren't you scared to leave like your source of income? And I was like, but in my 20s, I like restarted all the time. Like I lived, so restarting, and you do gain a certain amount of confidence as you get older. So it's like, something will work out, right? Like, I'm pretty capable individual. Like if I pick something and just keep at it, something should happen, right? And if I feel better about it than what I'm doing now, then how can that be a bad thing, right?
And how was the transition for you?
It was interesting. It was a huge lifestyle change, being an employee to being self-employed. I would say, and I have a Gemini rising. I don't want to talk too much about astrology, but I'm definitely like, oh, this is pretty. This is pretty. Oh, I could do that. And da da da. And so the thing is, it took me. I left my job almost 2 years ago, and the reason why, and I've tried to put myself out there with various things, but meditation feels so good because it is the core. Like no matter what I do, I have other things going on, like all the little projects. Any entrepreneur will really understand this. Like there's always like a million ideas, and you're like, how do I navigate that? But I will always meditate, and meditation will always be the foundation, no matter what direction I'm going in. So it's like, okay, well, and as I put myself out there as someone who, understands the long-term benefits of meditation, that will never change. So I was like, okay, I can rely on this because I've been doing it for over 30 years and I'm going to do it for another 30 years.
And what does it give you? Because you called it the foundation and people are looking for a safe foundation. What does it give you in your life that makes it solid? And
it's a foundation to yourself.
Yeah. So confidence, awareness, self-love, I'm assuming.
Yep. All of that. Yeah. So along with that, the downside of meditation with the self-confidence, it does bring arrogance. That is like, just because you meditate does not make you a good person. And it doesn't mean that you have complete control of your ego. Your ego will just evolve with your meditation practice. And it's something, there's terms like healthy ego and integrated ego and higher ego and all that kind of stuff. But I've been to plenty talks where a so-called meditation expert is just like an asshole, because they're just so arrogant, because it does cultivate such a connection with yourself and you do get this confidence. But like I said earlier, if you don't have like a good sort of guidance system on how to use your meditation, you will still turn out a jerk. So that's where, like, I'm grateful to my Buddhist teachings a little bit, because they honed in so much on compassion. So when you do sort of reach a place where I'm like, feeling like you're top of the world because you're meditating, you feel good about yourself, and you're like, that person, they don't got it together, that's where this arrogance comes in. And, that's not good, only because it makes you sad. Arrogance is a gateway to depression. So when you feel like you're better than others, or when you're separated from others, because that oneness energy is really what keeps us, happy. So the moment we start to separate ourselves through meditation, like there's too much detachment because we're going so much into ourselves that we don't know how to relate to the world when we're not in a meditative state, that can be also really not good for you also.
So that sounds like almost selfish, right? Where you're only feeding yourself, you're not being part of the world, you're in your own box.
I guess so. I don't use the word selfish a lot just because it can mean so many things.
I just see as the egoic piece of self-servingness.
Maybe. I think a lot of times when people are in that state, they don't realize that they're doing that. No. I see it more of a detachment, because this, again, it's that integration piece, which is why I saw myself in service in this space, because people are going into meditation, and first of all, there's like sort of different roadblocks. First is starting. How do I start meditating? What do I do with my mind? How do I sit? What do I do with my hands? Where am I supposed to focus? What am I supposed to be doing? There's the start. And then the second sort of hurdle is, how do I stay consistent? Like, so how do I do this thing that, seems so simple? And I know everyone says this, meditation is, is easy, but it's not easy, right? So how do I integrate? How do I just actually like carve out a day or time in my day? My recommendation on how to, and just a little tip for the people watching, is meditate after you've done something physical. If you want to do silent meditation, I like to meditate, like the easiest time for me to meditate is after I've taken a shower, because when you're like cleansing your body, you're already in a meditative state. Yes, you might be thinking about your day and things like that, but you're starting to actually connect with your body, and then you feel clean. And then meditation is often referenced as a shower for your brain, because you're cleaning out all the clutter and all the dust that's in your brain while you're meditating. So I would say an easy go-to of when to meditate is after you take a shower, go meditate. Go sit for 10 minutes while your hair is drying. And that's an easy time to meditate. A lot of people like to meditate before they sleep. That's actually not a great time to meditate, because that kind of turns into something else. I definitely think you should meditate to sleep, and there's more tips on stuff like that. But a meditative practice actually energizes you, because it's reconnecting yourself to your energy centers. So after a meditation, you actually feel a little bit more pepped up. So a lot of artists, actually, I know in South Korea anyways, while they're doing their craft, they integrate it with meditation. Same thing with martial arts, right? You meditate before and after practice, because it's a great way to sort of have that mind-body connection that you need to do that kind of stuff. So that's also why after like yoga, meditation comes at the end of a physical activity. So another thing I like to do is I have a really walkable neighborhood. So I like to take a walk for like around my block, and then after I walk, I'll meditate. Vipassana meditation practices, there's walking meditation before the sitting meditation. Again, because if your body has been moving around, it's going to welcome the sitting. Whereas if you've been just doing nothing all day, and then or not nothing, but like you're sitting at the computer or something and your body isn't moving, yep. And then you try to go meditate, it's going to be way harder, because your body's going to like want to move, and you're going to fidget and things like that.
So can you maybe walk us through the steps of your morning meditation after your shower? How does that look for people, just so they have an idea, and they'll know if they're doing some of that or not, or whatever?
Right. So when I first start a sitting meditation, first of all, you want to sit. You can graduate to laying down when you meditate a little bit later. After you do gain body, body, like muscle memory when you meditate. I always like to say meditation is a physical activity before it's a spiritual activity. It is a physical thing for you to sit down, get comfortable, and to physically sit there. So I usually start with a sitting, and
now, are you talking cross-legged or in a chair?
I sit cross-legged.
Okay.
Even if I'm on a chair.
Okay.
But I'm used to that. I usually do a half lotus position, and there are ways you can definitely do it on a chair, no problem. And I like to first start observing my breath on my dantian, or in Hawaii we call it the na'au, which is the second chakra. And there's different like major energy points that I like to focus on. But there's so many ways that you can focus your breath. But the first is just to observe. So usually the first 5 minutes of my meditation is just clearing out the clutter, right? I'm just like getting ready. I'm getting my brain. It's like a warm up, right? You're getting your brain ready. Like, okay, you're thinking, and you catch yourself, and you're like, okay, just let it pass. And then for the first 5 minutes, you're just kind of constantly catching yourself. And then as you're focusing more on your breathing and your body, you'll start thinking less and less and less. And then the sinking in happens, where you've like locked in and you're in this rhythm with your body. And it feels like an internal massage, which is what I really like. And, sometimes I'll start at my second chakra, and it'll climb up to my heart chakra, or my crown right here. The meditation does activate your brain waves and the brain body connection. And sometimes you can feel it, which is really cool. Like you'll feel like your brain is getting a massage, which is actually really relaxing. So usually I meditate for about 30 minutes a day. And I also teach meditation. So with my students, depending on the group, I usually at least do 15 minutes and then try to get them to go to 30 minutes a day. Mm-hmm. Or every other day. Doesn't have to be every day.
And when you spoke about sinking in, at least for me, it's like a lot of us are not even in our energy bodies, not even in our bodies. So once we calm down, to me, it's almost like my whole energy is sitting right in my butt cheeks finally.
Oh, yeah.
Would you say that's kind of or what you felt, or?
Yeah, so that's what I love about meditation. Is different for everybody because everybody's body energies are different, right? There's emotional body, spiritual body, mental body, all the different bodies, right? So when you meditate, those things are coming into alignment and you're giving the opportunity for those energy centers to actually like communicate with each other. Because throughout the day, we're getting pulled in every direction, right? And we're just out. And then when you sit in silence, you can just calm everything down and then everything will just kind of center. And how that looks for everyone is personal, right? Like, you know how you sink into your like your root chakra, it sounds like. Mm-hmm. That's great. Meditation should be grounding. A lot of times people will close their eyes and they see black. They'll like go everywhere. That's when you can open your eyes and gaze softly at the floor, because your goal is to really just be present with that moment. And so another good technique is, if you find yourself too scattered, you can start listening to the sounds that are around you. I live in Mililani. We're really lucky. We have like beautiful like bird songs happening all the time. So I can just like listen to the birds singing, and that'll slowly train my mind to start thinking less. And then I'll return my attention inward. Another thing that I mentioned earlier is doing mantras, like to yourself. Like if there's a specific goal, like if I had a really busy day or I'm really stressed out about something, I'll just repeat to myself a couple words like release and center. So in my inhale, I'll do center, exhale, release. And then after I do that for about 5-10 minutes, it just feels really good, because you're saying those words, but your body is taking over and it's doing the work for you. Like, body intelligence is such an amazing thing. I don't have to tell you, like, the body is so amazing. The body's from this place, and you let your body do its thing. Oh my gosh, it'll take care of you for sure.
And we don't know how much we're being controlled by the mind, and the body just wants to relax. It wants to breathe at a certain rate, where if we're excited, we're only breathing the top 30% of our lungs, and all of a sudden now you're breathing into your pelvis and you're breathing into and everything relaxes. Where outside you're kind of like frazzled, the TV and the beep, 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 and all this kind of stuff. I can hear the birds in the background there. It's beautiful. So
yeah. And usually your attention will go where it needs to go. Right? Like, I'm tugging on my right knee today, like give some time to your right knee. A lot of times, so I guess a couple body things when people meditate that they have issues with is itching and pain. They're like, I'm sitting, but then like my back hurts, or my knee hurts, or my legs are falling asleep. That comes with practice, like anything. A real good technique to use to straighten your back, instead of using your back muscles to straighten your back, is you can engage your chin. So if you're sitting down and you realize you're like hunching over, instead of trying to use your back to straighten up, if you engage your chin will, if you push your chin towards your neck, your chin will naturally pull your back up. And it's just the easier way to pull your back up and sitting straight without straining it. In Zen meditation, like, posture is everything. Like, they like train you on posture, because if you have the correct posture, all of that stuff will just work itself out, right?
Well, and it's critical to understand that posture is your center of your energy line, or your hara, or silver string. Mm-hmm. And the more it's straight, even in breath work, it's like lay down flat. Don't put a pillow behind your head, because the energy needs a straight channel to move through for the best flow, let's call it. So same in meditation, I'm hearing.
Yeah. In Vipassana meditation, they're not so strict on that alignment from the training that I've had. So there's different there's different techniques for different things, but in general, you do want to keep that line straight because you can sit there for a longer amount of time and get a deeper sort of session from it.
And literally you're more balanced over your sacrum and all these other things. Your knees are crossed or whatever. Actually, I was taught just recently that a lot of times pain in the body needs to be breathed through.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a blockage. It's a blockage of energy. So readjust your posture, breathe into your hips or wherever the pain is, and then move that energy up. And that pain may just fleetingly pass. But we're not aware of that we're in constriction, we're in hiding, we're in self-protection. So get curious every time.
Yeah,
because
and breath work is
up to hurt you. Go ahead.
Breath work is amazing. It's an amazing complement to meditation because of the amount of oxygen that you're taking in. Is just heals you in so many different levels. Yeah, I love breath work, and there's so many different ways to do breath work too. You can definitely, like, I've noticed I love slow breath work. Like, I'm not a huge fan of like the real fast stuff. I probably need it, I think. But it's just the fact that I've meditated for so long, I just love the slow, the slow and steady kind of thing. But yeah.
And I think people need to be aware that breath is the movement of energy in our body, right? So
yes.
If you're not breathing, you're breathing shallow or whatever, you're not really coursing it through your body. You should be in a continuous cycle where you're like breathing all the way down to the bottom of your pelvis, your root or whatever, and then with an open mouth or other things. If we're doing it only through the nose, we get a parasympathetic, a calming in the nervous system. But if we're trying to flush out stuff that's trapped energy or stuff in our pelvis or other things, all of a sudden you're just kind of, I look at it as clear water coming into our body, washing with the stuff that's not serving us, and then gray water coming out. But we're not doing complete breaths. So it sounds like you're coaching for complete breaths, breathing deeper into the belly, and being present. That brings a natural presence in the body. You're just like, oh, it feels safe to be in my body. I'm not 30% of my lungs and I'm constantly about to die because I don't have enough oxygen in my body, where now you're like, thank God.
Yeah. You can think of it, I've heard this that I really like, your breath is what connects your body to your soul. So
Agreed.
The more breathing that, the more conscious breathing that you do, the more connected you are to your like various energy centers, like you said. I like to think that when I'm in a meditative state, I do like to let my body take over. So my body will, sometimes I'll sway, like I'm swaying right now when I meditate, or, the breathing will like get deeper, or, you can even make sounds. Sometimes I sing when I end up singing when I meditate, just because that's what my body wants to do. But yeah, that's kind of like, I mean, to me, it's so foundational. I don't, like, if I'm feeling frazzled or if I'm doing too many things, if I just go sit for like 10, 15 minutes, it's better than coffee. I mean, for me, like, I personally can't really drink coffee or black tea, but, it's so natural. It's so good for you. It's completely free, once you've gotten your system down, and you can personalize it however you want. And I don't know, to me, it's like the best thing.
And what I've noticed is this world wants us to be in busyness, which is the same as business, which is just serving other people. But if we're in busyness, watch TV, cook the dinner, have to go for a walk or whatever. Sometimes your body just needs to calm right the frick down, sit in a chair, enjoy the sun on our face, have a nice drink of fresh water, deep breaths. That can be meditation in itself. Just put your toes in the grass in my world.
Yeah.
So what kind of stuff do you guys teach? You teach people, not you guys.
Right.
Sorry.
So I just started this venture this year. It's only March.
Yep.
So I actually created a meditation space back here. We have a little sunroom. One of the best ways to learn meditation is in a group setting, and the best way to stay inspired is in a group setting. Meditation is actually quite hard in the beginning when you're doing it by yourself, because like I had a friend who went to a meditation retreat, and she's like, how could I have meditated for like 5 days straight, and then when I come home I struggle to start meditating? I was like, well, you were in a group setting, like you were with other people. That makes it a lot more easier to meditate, because of that conscious collectiveness or whatever, right?
Well,
So
it's a container that keeps the energies out, the buzz of the world, and they're probably in nature, etc. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're doing it with other people. There's more accountability there. Whereas when you're with yourself, it's really easy to stop after a couple minutes. You're like, meh, you know.
Yeah.
So if you can find a group, so I created this space here because there was no place I could go to meditate. Because before I wanted to like sort of lead an initiative in meditation, I was like, where can I go? And there was always a temple, which is fine. I don't mind going to temples, but then I had to deal with the Dharma talk, and being someone who learned Buddhism in Asia, Dharma talks in the West are always kind of off for me personally. So I don't really like to listen to them. So I was like, oh, I just want to like go meditate, and it's about meditation, not necessarily like scripture after or whatever. And so I created this
So
space
they're kind
here.
of like a priest in a Catholic church or whatever. It's like the leader.
Yeah, so usually in a Buddhist setting, after like a meditation, there's a Dharma talk after, which I
Oh,
guess is kind
Dharma
of like
talk. Okay, there we
yeah,
go.
which is I guess it's kind of like a sermon. There's like a leader that's talking about like now that everyone's like juicy off of meditation or whatever, like they'll talk about like scripture and the meaning of life and different ways of observation, which is definitely necessary. But it's different when someone talks about that stuff when they discovered it as an adult. That was another thing for me. Like I'm trying to read meditation books right now. I have the hardest time because it's usually because it's English, right? Like I'm speaking English, where English is spoken in the West. But the fact that a lot of meditation people are people who discovered meditation as an adult, which like my brain was wired out. Like I was a child, my brain was developing as I was meditating. So a lot of times I don't relate to what they're saying, or what they're saying sounds still like the beginning phases of meditation, right? The first 10 years or whatever. Whereas I'm like, no, like it's okay. That still sounds like beginner language to me. And then, or it's a guru from Southeast Asia, right? Usually like a male guru that has a beard, and but they're talking about religion, right? They're usually pushing Buddhism along with meditation, and they're not saying to be Buddhist because that's not the Buddhist way, right? But they're definitely the lessons that they're pushing meditation with comes with that sort of organized religion aspect, which is great. But that's like I'm like, okay, well, I'm not I'm not like trying to push Buddhism on anyone. And so I'm trying to get through my meditation books. I love the perspectives that I'm getting from other people. I get to hear other people's struggles and sort of awakenings that they've had with Buddhism. It's a little tough for me because I had those realizations when I was really young, because I would have like real mature conversations with international monks when I was like 12 or 14 years old. So it's like, yeah, like I kind of realized the point where I'm like, oh, I think I need to say something about this, which is why I'm starting to put myself out there now, and hopefully I can like sort of be that, like you said earlier, like sort of like lead by example. Like, oh, I've done this, and I've done it for a long time, and it actually really works. And your life, I mean, I love my life, and your life, I don't see how it can't get better by you connecting in with yourself on a regular basis.
So you may not be able to reflect for yourself like this, but I want people that are observing to recognize how calm, relaxed, grounded. She's got a vibration that I think is the gift of being taught meditation from a very young age. That wholeness, that centeredness stayed with you, and it grounded your perspective on everything that you experienced is what I'm feeling and detecting, which gives you a gift, and it makes you perfect to be the teacher in this state, because you're going to teach them the innocence and the purity of your vibration first. So a teacher is half vibration, and then the other half is the words and the experience and other things. But she's also not coming from an egoic place. She's talking about, here's what I did, here's what showed up in my life, here's how I felt, etc., which is not a guru. It's a natural leader. You're just leading from, this really works for me, I'd love for you to have it, your choice really if you want to, but this is a person that can teach you the vibration of it and then teach you the semantics of it, and not in a an elder trying to adapt back, like you're saying, the current teachers, you're doing it from your childlike state, which is where everybody needs to start.
Oh, thank you so much. That was wonderful.
Beautiful.
I really appreciate that. Thank you.
So just recognize this, people, like compare her to other meditation teachers, other things that you've heard in guided meditations. She wants you to know the value of something she's felt in her body and mind and spirit. And it's not like, I need to convince you. You're going to have a natural pull towards a person that is grounded in it. And it's not about a career and money and all this kind of stuff. It's like, fuck, your life is going to change and you're going to be better if you can associate this into your body and feel your body and be curious and recognize and feel everything. And ultimately, you're going to be a better person because of it, because of that discernment, like you talked.
Yeah, and as you sort of integrate meditation into your life more and more, you actually go look for that time of silence. It's like brushing your teeth. You're like, like I need to go sit and clear my energy, because there's that sensitivity part that does come with it. Because I've seen people pick up meditation, they get so sensitive that they don't know how to sort of, and then they get really empathic. That's another thing.
Are you intuitive, would you say? Empathic, intuitive?
I would say I'm claircognizant.
Cognizant, so you know things about people.
Yeah, I'm claircognizant, and I'm pretty clairvoyant only because I'm a designer. So I like see things in visions, and I understand things like really easily. Like I have a friend who's very clairvoyant. Like she's the type of person that can see just everything walking around, and she'll just tell me what she sees, and then I'll understand what she's seeing. She might necessarily like not understand it as well, but as soon as she explains it to me, I'm like, oh, that's da, 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 da. And it's just like this inner knowing that I definitely think cultivated from my practice.
So I consider myself claircognizant as well. Based on what you've said, and I believe this in myself right now, is we're just hyper aware of what's going on in other people. We're feeling their vibrations. We're seeing what's going on in their face. And then we can read that as a vibrational or a knowing inside of ourselves that they're nervous, they're angry, or they're whatever, which some people might think we're reading their mind or whatever. No, we're just reading the energies they're putting off and being aware of it in our body, so we have insight into what's going on.
Correct. Yeah. And I definitely use that at work when I'm running workshops. Like I had to run a lot of stakeholder workshops for various like stakeholder groups, and I could facilitate that space because of my ability to like read the room. Right.
Beautiful.
So that's
the energy.
Yeah. So I've tried to decide like who I sort of want to sort of target. So I did kind of think about like leaders, just because I think leaders are super important. There's nothing that peeves me more than a bad leader, because they're just so impactful, right? They're the ones setting the tone for like things to happen and for the people's well-being at work.
Well, they're leading by example, but from a negative example or a low vibration example, where you're leading from empowered and insightful and discerning, where everybody else is like, oh, my story says I need to be this and I need to prove myself and my rules mean. That's the stuff you're talking about that drives me nuts too. Is that not the end result of a powerful meditation practice? Is probably claircognizance, more awareness of everything that's going around you as well as yourself.
Yeah, it is. It is. And it helps you with the empathic sensitivity. So there are a lot of techniques on empathic sensitivity. When you do have that sort of cultivation within yourself, you have a better idea of what works for you and what doesn't as far as empathic sensitivities go. Because I would say 99% of everyone is empathically sensitive. Everyone's constantly picking up something from somebody else. So having that sort of clarity and that awareness and observational skills to be like, oh, that's not mine. Oh, that's a projection. It just keeps you really clear, keeps you really clean, so that you can, still be that really intuitive person that you are, but still like, talk to that drunk person or like, or that it was like, ooh, that person, but you can still like, exist amongst and have compassion for them and be like, that's where that person is at, like, and just, still come from like a loving place.
And would you call that emotional intelligence? In corporate, that's what I learned. It's like,
I guess
don't
so.
be in your trigger and beat somebody because they're crazy or whatever, because that's our first reaction, right?
Right. Yeah,
So
and triggers are usually, I mean, the baseline of most triggers is fear, right? Like if you're getting triggered by someone, they're threatening you in some subconscious level, right? And that's another thing. Silent meditation, excellent for reaching your subconscious. So, and to like do all that rewiring stuff that you hear about with the subconscious mind. So,
and you find this safe space within yourself that's you can retract to when things get crazy on the outside, and now you can just observe instead of getting dragged in.
right. Yeah. and
Beautiful.
and the searching too, you start to realize, oh, especially like I definitely went, I guess, because I came to the States in 2000, like I graduated high school in 1999, and just the 2000s was just like, oh my god, crystals, tarot, like all these like toys, because I already had that spiritual alignment. So I was like, oh my god, this is so fun, that childhood thing, that whatever, da, 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 da. And after like a couple of decades of doing just playing around with all those, they're really toys.
Mhm.
I was like, oh, like this is the best. This inner work is the best out of all that stuff. Like, yes, like breath work is amazing, plant medicine is amazing, all that stuff is awesome, but the most empowering thing you can do is to have that cultivated connection to yourself. Like if you have that, like like everything else is great, but you have, like, again, that foundation, like you have that foundation within yourself, like you're just going to enjoy everything that much more. And once you get too pulled, even with all the spiritual toys and all the stuff, if you just come back to yourself, you stay grounded, you stay connected, and it's just, I don't know, it's just really nice.
Well, without that conscious connection to yourself, which is what I call meditation, it's the fundamental of self-love, because you're not going to be able to discern your needs over somebody else's or people pleasing or any of these things until you can read your mind and read your ego and all the stories that are playing out and consciously observe them. I literally see myself behind my head about a foot. It's like, why are you getting mad right now? Why are you getting scared? Why are you getting whatever? That's the observer that meditation gives you. And then you can consciously navigate for your self-worth, for your self-love. You'll see when you're out of self-worth, you'll see when you're projecting whatever it is, because it's basically the foundation of everything in spiritual practice. Self-awareness is
Mm-hmm.
meditation, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it makes shadow work fun. Like I know I have one friend who's just like, oh my god, is this shadow work ever gonna end? It's like one thing just leads to another. It goes deeper, deeper, deeper.
Yeah.
But yeah, like if I'm sitting in meditation or I've gone through life and like something or I get triggered, I'm like, ooh, what's that? I'm like, well, let's go look. And
You
you
go
know,
down that hole and you're chasing the dragon, but
right.
it's not a dragon, it's something else.
Yeah, and afterwards that thing gets pulled out, you're super clear, and you feel better, I guess, for a while, a while, until like something else happens. But that's really what we're here to do. The beauty of being in the physical dimension is that we get to do this kind of work here that we can't necessarily do once we're just spirit. So
It literally gives you the tools for conscious navigation and whatever shows up in a human body.
yes. Yes.
And that can include breath work and other things, but ultimately you have to be able to get back into the observer position, which is what I see meditation is. No more monkey mind, no more running
Right.
around chasing mosquito, fly, cloud, blah, blah, blah. You're just like, okay, what's going on here? Why? And
Mm-hmm.
then you start having a conversation with yourself, literally.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
In that silence, something shows up and it's like, that's angry. What's going on? And now you have the tool to be able to say, okay, why are you angry? And it may be
Mm-hmm.
your inner child. It may be your dad's projection or some epigenetic lineage shit or whatever. But at least now you're asking and moving towards a result where before we were just unconsciously resisting.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make agreed or
Yeah.
is that?
Yeah, 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 definitely. I definitely think there's a lot of things that people don't want to look at, right? Or take responsibility for,
Is
right?
that what you call shadow work?
I guess so. For me, shadow work is facing your fears. And so, and facing like yeah, I mean, that's to me like fear rules not everything, but and everything works in
And
polarities.
yeah,
Yeah, everything work in polarity. So if something's really good, there's a polarity there, right? So
you can't have light without dark.
yeah, and it's that the choice factor. A silent meditation practice allows you to choose a little bit better, and it like there was definitely a time when I was in this denial phase where I could stay there because like there's two ends of the stick. I was like, oh, I'm just gonna stay on the good side, because it like feels good. But then after a while, you realize you actually get off balance, and you're
Mhm.
like, oh, I need to balance it out,
Absolutely.
and I like going back to a little bit on astrology. Astrology is also a great tool for looking at polarities. And what I like to tell people is like use it as a seesaw. Don't try to like do two things at one time because that's when like the mind splits and there's no movement, and that's when stress comes in. But if you like look at polarities as a seesaw and where you just swing, like fully enjoy being here, then fully enjoy being there, then things will start to move and things will start to shift, and it's a way more enjoyable journey.
Yeah, I hear you. Sorry, somebody's texting me here. I'm just going to say I'm busy at the moment, but I've got like
Yeah.
9 messages from them. So we're coming up on the hour. So I'd like you to explain a little bit about how people can reach you and how your coaching works. And
Yeah, I think the best way to contact me directly is through my Instagram. I'm in the process of trying to see which platform I sort of want to go forward with. I just created my Substack. We are in Mercury retrograde right now, which is okay to start things, but there is one date I do want to mention to people here. Little pro tip or extra. Usually planets are usually there's at least one planet in retrograde,
mhm.
just because we have the outer planets like Pluto, Uranus, and things like that. And their retrogrades are much longer. And so from April 13th to May 3rd, there will be no planets in retrograde. All the
Wow.
planets from Earth's perspective will be moving forward. So if you're watching this at a good time, just sort of line your ducks up in a row, because it's going to be like this forward push where you just get to like cruise. Think of it as like, catching a wave when you're surfing. So just, get ready for that push forward, because everything is just going to be moving forward. So, um, sorry,
And
I just
today's
wanted to.
equinox as well, which is a huge energy day as well.
Yeah. Yep.
So you're saying in about 20, 23 days,
Yeah, right
we're going
after
to have
Mercury
a
retrograde.
possibility for some major good stuff showing up.
Yeah, or there's going to be a push. So wherever you're at, try to position, and we never know, right? We do the best we can, and then when things happen, they happen. So just try to align yourself in a way where if someone was going to push you into something, that you're like, okay, this is where I want to go, or this is where I think I want to go at least, and that so you're like moving towards that direction.
Mm.
So with that being said, you can find me on Instagram, Korokiness, and I just started my Substack. It should be at Christine Koroki, or just do a search. I'm kind of putting myself out there as a meditation person. I'm still working out. I have a group of friends that I'm really grateful for, that I'm sort of working with as far as like what my real offerings will be. Or if you want to tell me like how you like to work with me, I'm definitely open to that. I'm still in the sort of creation phases of my services. So I want to thank you, Paul, so much for allowing me to just like talk about this. And yeah, you're a great person to bounce this kind of energy off of.
Awesome. Well, and I would suggest you do some lives and talk about a meditation practice, get people into some basic stuff, because basically the hardest part is just getting in through some of these things. And then when they want to refine it, sometimes if they can't get into the practice, they may
Right.
need you. But if they want to refine it, that's when they're coming to you and saying, okay, I'm getting all these things happening. I feel pain in my body. But if you haven't tried those, that you're just kind of, if they can kickstart themselves first, then the meditation coach thing becomes really important, because now you're guiding them as they're running into the roadblocks, not prepping them for the roadblocks that everybody's going to have, or is typical, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
so do some lives is what I'd recommend, and I'll be happy to share them once you place them or whatever. Just, hey, here's how to make your back straight, and here's how I do it, and by example or whatever. And this is all part of we're in this Conscious Business Accelerator program. That's how I met her. But they're saying, do more of this and give helpful knowledge and little tools and that kind of stuff. So that's what I'm trying to do is highlight other people and also show that my perspective and other people's perspectives are very similar, not so much for validation, but just to say, here's the feminine perspective, here's the meditation perspective, here's the masculine perspective, which I can't always provide as only a masculine kind of thing. But we're all more than anything. So I love having these discussions, and I love being able to add my, hopefully it was helpful or whatever, but my perspective in meditation, like sitting down in my ass energetically and those kind of things, but falling in or whatever but for somebody else, it may be like, oh, that's what it feels like. I'm sitting in the chair of my bum kind of thing, which sometimes those reflections help and it makes stuff even go deeper. So that's why I honor you, and your light and your perspective and all this kind of stuff is magnificent. I wouldn't say I do specifically meditation, but I've been forced into aloneness a lot, which can be silent meditation. It's not turning the TV on, going for a walk in the park, walking meditation, those kind of things. But in a corner would probably drive my butt nuts or whatever for an hour or whatever. But as you said, you progress. I get to the point where I can actually lay down and meditate now, and I don't fall asleep, and I'm completely quiet. Or when I first wake up in the morning, just completely walking through some dream ideas or some exciting like pre-framing, which goes into your day, which you're still in that half sleepy, half awake state, but you're actually making changes in your cortex and your brain and your brain chemistry, and stuff starts to shift. So
yeah, you can meditate while doing the dishes.
Absolutely. And a lot of times when you're driving, you're in a entrained state, and that's the perfect time. You're like meditating. It's like, how the hell did I get from work to home and I didn't even see a traffic light or whatever? That's meditation.
That's actually a little thing I learned when I was a kid, because I've kid meditation classes are starting to become more popular now. But for me, it wasn't, I was told by my mom and the monks to meditate. So it wasn't like this thing where I had the option, like, I'm going to do this for myself. I was like, no, you're 9 years old, you're going to do this. And what I learned is if I actually meditate, time just
gone. Yep.
Like flies by. But if I sit there, I'm like, I don't want to do this. I don't know why they're making me do this. This is so boring. I don't like this. I just want to go play outside. That will last forever, right? Yeah. I feel like I'm there for like the whole afternoon. But if I actually sit in silence and just like observe myself, and then gong, and I'm like, oh my God, we're done. Great. I can go play outside now.
Beautiful. Yeah. But that's exactly how meditation works, and it's literally not. It's like watching the clouds float by instead of, oh, that's a black cloud, that's a gray cloud, that's a rain cloud. You're just like, okay, stuff's happening. And then the next thing you know, it's 20 minutes later, and you feel really relaxed.
Yeah, you feel great. You're connected. You're ready to go.
And it's not lost time. It's actually gained time, because you've calmed your nervous system. Your body feels safe. You're fully energetically present. Your intuition starts to fire. Like, there's so many positive side effects. You said it reduced stress in your corporate.
Yeah. And like, as someone who's like trying to do their own businesses now, like, that's the one thing, like, I'll get like a download and I'm like, but just stay here. It's okay. It's like, no, I just want to, like, I don't want downloads right now. I would just like to connect, So that's another sort of mini master technique. You can definitely give your little affirmations and direction on like what you get out of your meditation, for sure.
And you just brought up the word. What does a download feel like, so people know?
Oh, I'm sure it's different for everyone. For me, it's like, it can feel like an idea.
Inspired idea,
yeah. It can feel like an idea. Or sometimes I try not to entertain this too much, because I know some. So when you do start to get that alignment with spirit, you do start to get little messages more. And you can definitely, you want to make sure that you're giving direction to the messages that are coming in, because they will definitely, have their way if you're not giving them some direction. Like, I have one friend who's super intuitive, and she's constantly having to help other people, because they're like, oh, go tell her to do this, or go help this person. And, it distracts her from like her sort of self. So when I go into meditation, I definitely set an intention. Like I am doing this to connect with my essence, and I don't want any distractions apart from that. And then that way I get like a real clean sitting. However, if I like grab a big crystal and I'm like, okay, talk to me, then you'll get like a bunch of like information and visions and all this kind of stuff, and that's when it can get really fun. But you definitely, like I said, after all of that, you do want to come back and center with yourself, because that's the most important piece that you want to make sure stays stable.
And I think it's important that people understand, like we said, getting in alignment with your body makes you aware, and intuition and other things come in. This is natural to everybody. It's not like you're a channel and you're only a channel. You came here to be a channel. I'm a channel too.
Yeah,
When I have a long live,
right.
I don't even remember what I said sometimes at the end of an hour long live or whatever, because source came through me. It said some stuff. My mind was going this way and that way and following the runners of whatever needed to be said, which is actually the energetic intelligence of all of the viewers at that same time, guiding me to the answers they needed. And to be open to that, you can leave it wide open, like you said, where you got to give messages to everybody, or you can say, oh, there's boundaries here. It's on my specific topic and spirit. And we're not listening to all of that most of the time. And it's just like noise in the back of our head, but we're listening to the TV, we're listening to our spouse or whatever, where we really need to get back into listening to the things that are telling us how to be better, or what's off in our life, or some other thing, which can come only by listening, which is meditation and sitting and being in silence. And it's like, oh, you need to work on your anger. Where's your anger? Where's the root of your anger? Where did it start? And you don't want to get too much in a story and chatter and all this kind of stuff. It's like, oh, my dad used to be angry all the time when I was a little kid, and that's normal for a man or whatever. Now, well, it's probably not, but your dad was just having a bad day and blah, blah, blah. But now you've worked through it, and it's like, I don't have to be angry all the time. Little tiny insights like that will change everything.
Right.
But you got to be listening. You got to be focused. You got to be not watching the TV and watching your phone and all this kind of stuff. You need to just.
And you have to know what resonates with you. Absolutely. So like if you're meditating in silence and the anger piece pops up, usually I like, take a mental note, and I'm like, okay, which like guided meditation or, person that will guide me through this process, what, clearing process do I want to use this? Because then that's like a separate thing, right? So I usually try to keep things pretty intentional. So if I'm doing a silent meditation and like a fear comes up or a trigger comes up, I'm like, oh, okay, that came up. Let me finish sitting in silence. And then I'll revisit that and be like, hey, that piece that came up, now I want to tackle that. And then the intention for that next session is like, okay, we're looking at this fear piece. Like, what are we doing about it? So yeah. And that's where the strategy part comes in.
One that works really well for me, I don't know, being you're from Hawaii, but Ho'oponopono was the very first spiritual practice I ever received. Do you believe in it?
Wow. About Ho'oponopono?
Yeah.
Yes. Ho'oponopono for me is a group, sort of a ceremonial process. I think the way it's being translated, because you're not in Hawaii, so you probably have to do it yourself. But my impression of Ho'oponopono is that, there's a facilitator, and, there's usually, or it's like, before you go into some sort of spiritual thing, it's like, check yourself, Ho'oponopono, like before you come in, like don't take your, like resolve what you need to before we do this thing together. So yeah, it's more of to me, it's more of a community sort of.
Well, some of the words, I don't know all but ponos and other things are all family related. But the way I've learned it, it's just, I am sorry, I love you, please forgive me, thank you. And it's a mantra that I sing in the back of my head. I do not know what this thing is that's hurting me right now, but I'm sorry for it. I love you. Please forgive me. Thank you. It just gives the openness. At least Dr. Hugh Len, who is Hawaiian or whatever, basically called it cleaning the data. There's stuff in your lineage. There's stuff in your past, in your job, in your family that's running, and you don't know what to clean or where to be sorry or anything. Just run that over and over and over again, and eventually the thing you got to work on shows up.
Yeah, it's similar to a lot of Sanskrit. A lot of Sanskrit sayings, like the things, like the mantras that you repeat in yourself. And a lot of times words and sounds have vibrations. themselves. So the combination of those sounds, Hawaiian has a lot of vowels, and so a lot of times a combination of those sounds will actually trigger and put into play energetic cleanses just because of the sound combinations, right? And we see a lot of that in Sanskrit and a lot of other countries as well. So
and that's where you talked about mantras and chanting and singing and all this kind of stuff. You're just basically putting it into the field to clear your vibration, literally combing you of all the shit that you don't even know is there. So, but we're well over time. It's 1:10. But hold on for 1 second. I'm just going to hit end stream. Thank you, everybody, for showing up.
Thank you so much.
And Christine will put her information on how to contact you or her in the bottom, or there should be a tag in here already at Christine Koroki, which is her Facebook profile. Look her up on there. Thank you for listening, and I hope you all got something from it. So
thank you, Paul. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, I'm going to hit the end button here.